call the public hearing to order at this time. Our first order tonight is going to be a public hearing. The first public hearing is for ordinance number 2019-25. Mr. Stoltz.
Thank you, sir. Ordinance number 2019-25, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof that the following property owned by Fort Oglethorpe Marketplace LLC and known as map 0003A 104 400 Battlefield Parkway, Suite 17, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is hereby rezoned to a C2 special exception zoning. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of the rezoning to a C2 special exception of this property? Sir, if you would come up. If I could get you to put your name here, if you would, and announce your name when you go to the podium. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Nix, and I am speaking in favor of the special exception zoning. I am with the company that's looking to actually come here. Physicians Care ultimately is owned by Urgent Team, and so here is what we intend to do with this space. I guess for reference, this is what the building currently looks like. So primarily you'll be adding a new front facade, and right now the space is vacant, and we intend to put in a walk-in family and urgent care that will be open 7 days a week, about, call it 75 hours per week open. That's 12 hours Monday through Friday, typically 8 to 8, although we may shift that by an hour depending on local demand. And then on the weekends, usually 9 to 5 on Saturday and 1 to 5 on Sunday. So our goal is to provide daily access to walk-in, urgent and family care. So we kind of operate between both kind of primary and urgent care needs. Everything is on a walk-in basis, and we focus to have as wide a variety of patient base as possible. So we accept virtually every type of insurance.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition of the rezoning to a C2 special exception zone? Mayor, doesn't appear any. Yes, ma'am. If you would come up, please, ma'am. If I could get you to sign your name there and announce your name when you go to the podium. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. My name is Cindy Ray, and I represent the owner of the property known as Fort Marketplace. We have been trying to lease this out parcel for quite a while, and certainly since Payless left, and we feel that urgent care and physicians care will provide a much needed use, a good clean family use for that property. And trust me, we have had our share of liquor stores, tidal ponds, and all of those places approach us and offer an incredible rent, and we just really did not want that corner to go to that type of usage. So we certainly hope that you will approve this usage, and thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of this rezoning to a C2 special exception zone? Mr. Mayor, it appears that no one else is in attendance to speak in opposition of or in favor of that rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Next item under public hearing is for ordinance number 2019-26. Mr. Stoltz.
Mayor, this is ordinance number 2019-26, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to provide for certain revisions. Fort Oglethorpe Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 1, General, Section 2.4 to provide for provisions therein is authorized by state law, to provide for a modification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date for all other purposes thereof. Now, Mayor, this ordinance has been on file. This is an amendment to Section 2.4 or a code of ordinances, which basically adds a Parks and Recreation Department. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this ordinance? Mr. Mayor, it doesn't appear anyone's here to either speak in opposition of or in favor of this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Stutz. Item number 3 under public hearing is a public hearing for ordinance number 2019-27. Mr. Stutz.
Ordinance number 2019-27, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, to provide for certain revisions of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 3, Finance, Section 2.97, to provide for provisions therein is authorized by state law, to provide for modification, to provide severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances and parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date for all other purposes allowed by law. Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance been on file with the city clerk. This is to amend the purchasing ordinance for the city of Port Oglethorpe, Section 2.96. Anyone here either in opposition of or in favor of this ordinance that would like to speak tonight? Mr. Mayor, it doesn't appear anyone's present to speak in opposition of or in favor of said ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Stutz. That concludes our public hearing for tonight. At this time, we will call our regularly scheduled council meeting to order. Mr. Rogers, if you would, please do the invocation. Mr. Crawford, lead us in the pledge, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all you've done for us, Lord. We thank you for our city. We thank you for our country. Lord, thank you for the safety that we have here and all the great people of this city. Pray that you would give us wisdom as we conduct the business of the people. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes of the previous council meeting. If members of council had an opportunity to review these, I will entertain a motion to approve.
motion.
Have a motion.
Second.
Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda, communications from the mayor. Just want to reiterate, I told you last council meeting, some of the schools were starting before we got back. Well, now they've all started, so let's be sure and slow down. The kids are back at school, and when the time change gets here, they're gonna be a little dark probably for them in the morning, so let's just make sure we exercise caution, especially in these neighborhoods with their kids. And the rest of my time, I am going to have Chief Helton come up. I'm relinquish my time to you, sir. I think he has some announcements he wants to make. Chief Helton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for allowing us a few extra moments this evening. We have a few special things that we'd like to recognize in your presence tonight, if we may. We could have Officer Ethan Sorrell and Officer Justin Ruth step forward, please. I'm going to read these as to both of you. We'd like you, the council, to know the actions that these officers have taken while serving in this city, and then present them these awards and letters of commendation for this service that I believe you'll agree with the department that it's certainly worthy of. First and foremost is life-saving commendation to Officer Ethan Sorrell. On March the 19th, 2019, You were among officers that responded to a domestic dispute call at Cloud Springs Lodge in Fort Oglethorpe, case number 19-03-00139. As a conclusion of the call, 2 people were arrested and placed in custody, and you were the transporting officer of both. In this particular case, those arrested happened to be a mother and her 18-year-old son. During the transport to the Catoosa County Detention Center, you noticed the son had ceased verbally communicating with his mom, and the mother alerted you at that time that her son had appeared to stop breathing. You further noticed the son had slumped over in the back seat of his car and was motionless. At the time of your arrival at the jail, with the mother frantic, knowing her son was not breathing and something was seriously wrong, you began an assessment and alerted the jail staff of the situation. You attempted sternum rubs, which provided no results, and you verified the son was unresponsive. You recognized the need to remove the young gentleman from your car. You laid him on the ground. You checked for pulse and respirations and found none. You requested emergency medical response and began the process of CPR. During the CPR process and with the assistance of the jail staff, you then began administering your department-issued Narcan. After multiple cycles of CPR and 3 doses of Narcan, it was noticed the young gentleman had regained a pulse and began to breathe again. The emergency medical responders soon arrived and transported the young man to the hospital. Fort Oglethorpe police investigators conducted follow-up starting the next day due to the nature of the incident. Investigators were advised by the mother that the officer involved had also been back to check on the condition of her son after this. The mother stated she found that her son had taken a combination of illegal drugs mixed with alcohol prior to the domestic call, which resulted in shutting his body down by telling him not to breathe. The mom advised that when she alerted you to the fact that her son had ceased breathing, quote, "You drove 900 miles per hour to get to the jail. Our cars do not really go that fast, but we know your heart." And she does too. And you got there really quick. During the investigative interview, the mother stated that the officer was the best officer she had ever met, and that man saved my son's life. After the young man recovered, he was also interviewed and stated if I had gone to bed that night, I might not have woke up. And he saved my life, referring to you, Officer Sorrell. The City of Fort Oglethorpe and the Police Department acknowledge your actions, which contributed to saving this young man's life. And we thank you for delivering excellent service for those we protect. Officer Justin Ruth, also recognizing him for life-saving commendation. On April 2nd, 2019, multiple officers responded to the call of a residential structure fire at 14 Dogwood Drive in Fort Oglethorpe, case number 19-04-0009. You were the first responder to arrive at this scene. You immediately noticed the resident was engulfed with tall visible flames coming from the rear, the garage, and the roof areas. You immediately began scanning into the windows and the doors in an attempt to determine if anyone was still inside the residence. While doing so, you observed a female pacing back and forth inside a bedroom window. You communicated your findings to other responding officers as well as the dispatch center. You made contact with the female, who was later determined to be the homeowner, and you attempted to get her to open the window, which she was not able to accomplish. You noticed the imminent danger the female was in due to the flames getting closer and the smoke levels in the home, and you knew it was imperative to get her out of that residence. You instructed the female to back away from the window and to grab a blanket, while you utilized your department-issued baton and broke out the glass and cleared the window, free of broken glass. You then extricated the homeowner out of the residence through the window, uninjured, and got her to safety across the street. Officer Marcus Alford, Detective Sergeant Tammy Davis, and now Lieutenant Greg Wingo arrived at the scene and observed your actions. Lieutenant Wingo and Detective Sergeant Davis provided formal letters describing and commending your professional actions. The City of Fort Oglethorpe and Police Department hereby acknowledge your actions which contributed to saving this woman's life, and we thank you for delivering excellent service to those that we protect. This department would like to give you formal letters of commendation that will go in your file. These are yours to keep, but we also present to you these awards that we chose. I'm going to remove them from the light so that we can show them. They're life-saving awards to each one of you, and they read, Life-Saving Award Justin Ruth, in recognition of your outstanding service and commitment to our community. The month this occurred, April 2019. Life-Saving Award, Ethan Sorrell, in recognition of your outstanding service and commitment to our community. The month this occurred, March 2019. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your outstanding service.
Thank you. It's fantastic.
Jeannie, can we get a photo?
Can we get a photo?
Pictures, yes, absolutely. Just line it up.
Can we bring the rest of the
Council.
Come on.
You want the rest of your officers in here?
Bring all the guys in?
You gonna bring all the guys in with you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Come in.
Earl Dunbar.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
Stand up, bro.
Make sure I've got everybody. Can we get the other officers in real quick?
Yeah, y'all come over here,
Come on in.
please.
You heard them.
Council, come on, y'all. Please. Hey, you got another one down there.
I'm taking a call.
It's probably a appointment call. Rhonda, move a little bit closer to Paula. A little bit closer from Rhonda. There you go. Proud of all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This way.
Recommendations there, Mr. Sorrell. I said there's one in that recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you make the big
Paid
one?
off.
I thought he did. Next item on our agenda tonight is zoning matters. We have none. Next item on the agenda is ordinances. Ordinance number 1 is the third and final reading for ordinance number 2019-25. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-25, rezoning be ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, and it is hereby ordained by authority thereof, Section 1, that the following property owned by Port Oglethorpe Marketplace LLC and known as MAP 0003A 104 400 Battlefield Parkway, Suite 17, Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, is hereby rezoned to a C2 special exception zoning. Said property is particularly described in the exhibits attached to this ordinance. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity and unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair the other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. This ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. This is the third reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. James,
Yes.
Ms. Stinney,
Yes.
Mr. Childs,
Yes.
Mr. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2 under ordinances is the third and final reading for ordinance number 2019-26. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-26, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, to provide for certain revisions of the Port Oglethorpe, Georgia Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 1 in general, Section 2.4, to provide for provisions therein as is authorized by state law, to provide for modification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption and effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Whereas the duly elected governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is authorized under Article 9, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution of the state of Georgia, the official code of Georgia annotated 3635-3, and the charter of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to adopt reasonable ordinances to protect and improve the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. And whereas the duly elected governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is vested in the city council composed of a mayor and 5 council members, and whereas the city council is desirous of providing for a streamlined and efficient method of procuring budgeted services and materials necessary for the efficient operation of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, and whereas the city council is desirous of updating the department titles in the city code to match operating practices, and whereas that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed, and whereas that if any part of this ordinance shall be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Now therefore it is hereby ordained by the governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, the Code of Ordinances, City of Fort Oglethorpe, Chapter 2, Article 1 in general, Section 4, departments created hereby amended as striking in completion the old and entering a new Section 2.4, which creates in general, change is the number 7, the Parks and Recreation. This is the third and final reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Child?
Yes.
Ms. Stinnett?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 3 under ordinances is the third and final reading for ordinance number 2019-27. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-27, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to provide for certain revisions of the Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 3, Finance, Section 2.97, to provide for provisions therein as is authorized by state law, to provide for modification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Whereas the duly elected governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is authorized under Article 9, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution of the state of Georgia, the official code of Georgia annotated 3635-3, and the charter of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to adopt reasonable ordinances to protect and improve the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and whereas the duly elected governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is vested in the city council composed of a mayor and 5 council members, and whereas the city council is desirous of providing for a streamlined and efficient method of procuring budgeted services and materials necessary for the efficient operation of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, and whereas the city council is desirous of allocating and delegating authorities to the city manager and department directors to procure services and materials needed by the city of Fort Oglethorpe when same have already been approved through the budgeted process and council approved contracts, and whereas that all ordinances or parts of their ordinance in conflict herewith are hereby repealed, and whereas that if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect and impair the other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Now therefore, it is hereby ordained by the governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, that the Code of Ordinances for the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Chapter 2, Article 3, Finance, Section 2.9, Expenditures, is hereby amended as follows. Amendment has been in the clerk's office made since the first reading. It's quite extensive. I won't reread it.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Ms. Stenick?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 4 under ordinances is the first reading for ordinance number 2019-28. Mr. Stoltz.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2019-28, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof, Section 1, that the following property owned by Michael Mouton V&M Car Wash LLC and known as MAP 0019A002000 Highway 41 Food City Development is hereby rezoned to a C2 Special Exception 0 zoning. Said property is particularly described in Exhibit A attached here 2. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 5 under ordinances is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-29. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-29, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to provide for certain revisions of the Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia Code of Ordinances, Chapter 86, Telecommunications, to provide provisions therein as authorized by state law, to provide for modification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption date, an effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Whereas the duly governing authority of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia is authorized under Article 9, Section 2, Paragraph 3, Constitution of the State of Georgia and the Official Code of Georgia annotated 3635-3 and the Charter of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to adopt reasonable ordinances to protect and improve the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and whereas the duly elected governing authority of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia is vested in the City Council composed of a mayor and 5 city council members, and whereas OCGA Section 32-4-92A 10, 32-4, 42-6 authorizes the City of Fort Oglethorpe to establish reasonable regulations of activities and items in and along, over, and under the public roads of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, and whereas the City Council is desirous of regulating the installation, construction, maintenance, renewal, removal, and replication of pipes, mains, conduits, cables, wires, poles, towers, traffic, and other signals and other equipment, facilities, or appliances in and along, over, and under the public roads of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, and whereas 47 U.S.C. 253C provides the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia has authority to manage its public right-of-ways, and whereas the Georgia Streamlining Wireless Facilities and Antennas Act, OCGA Section 36, Chapter 66C, SWFFA for initials, addresses the placement of small wireless facilities in the public rights-of-way of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, and whereas the City Council finds it's in the best interest of the City of Fort Oglethorpe and its residents and business to establish requirements, specifications, reasonable conditions regarding placement of small wireless facilities and poles in the public right-of-way. Now therefore is ordained by the governing authority of the City of Fort Oglethorpe that the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Article 4, Small Wireless Facilities, is added to Chapter 86, Telecommunications. This is a recent law that was enacted by the legislature. It goes into effect October 1st, Mayor, and it's recommended that we have an ordinance to cover that.
Thank you, Mr.
First
Stoltz.
reading.
Item number 6 under ordinances is first reading of ordinance number 2019-30. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-30, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to provide for certain revisions of the Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia Code of Ordinances, Chapter 94, Utilities, Article 4, Sewer Use, Section 94-154, Construction of Water Lines, to provide for the provisions therein. It is authorized by state law to provide for modification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Whereas the duly elected governing authority of the city of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia is authorized under Article 9, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution of the State of Georgia, the Official Code of Georgia, annotated 3635-3, and the Charter of the City of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, to adopt reasonable ordinances to protect and improve the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, and whereas the duly elected governing authority of the city of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia is vested in the city council composed of mayor and 5 council members, and whereas the city council is desirous of providing an alternative to the requirement of use of ductile iron pipe. Now therefore it is ordained by the governing authority of the city of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, that the Code of Ordinances for the city of Port Oglethorpe, Chapter 94, Utilities, Article 4, Sewer Use, Section 94-154 is hereby amended by deleting 94-154 and adding a new section 94-154, which meets the objective first reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Next item on the agenda is resolutions. Resolution number 2019-07, modify position control. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This request to modify position control simply adds a Deputy Director of the Water and Sewer Department. For those of you who are not aware, our current director, Phil Parker, has announced his retirement for next year, and this position will allow us to bring in additional talent to the department in preparation for this significant loss.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, we hate that he's going.
Hey, you're getting old. Any other questions?
We still might convince him to stay.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Stinnett?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
Unanimous cheerleading.
Don't say that.
Please.
Next item on the agenda, unfinished business. We have none. The next item, reading of the city clerk of any communications. We have none. The next item on the agenda is new business. Item number 1 under new business, proposed approval to sponsor a table at Showcase Catoosa. Ms. Simpkins.
Mayor and Council, this request is to sponsor the upcoming Showcase Catoosa Expo that's presented by the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce holds this event every year as an opportunity to invite local businesses to display information and network with residents and visitors. Due to our membership level, we can sponsor the expo for $500. So staff recommends approval to sponsor the Showcase Catoosa Expo in the amount of $500.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Ms. Simpkins, someone going to be there at our table?
Yes, booth is included in our sponsorship level, and every year we provide information generally on stormwater. We might also this year provide some information on some job opportunities. It depends on what's going on that particular year, but yes, we'll be represented with the booth.
Great, thank you.
It also covers one of our requirements that we have to have on the public stormwater. That's why we have Brian there. Item number 2, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2 under new business, proposed approval to pay Georgia Department of Natural Resources for water testing. Mr. Parker.
Mr. Mayor, this is the annual EPD testing contract that we do with Georgia EPD to test certain aspects of our water, test the lead and copper and the disinfection byproducts. This is an annual contract we do with EPD every year. It's a line item budget for us. It's $6,600 payable to Georgia EPD. Just asking for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Have a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 3 under new business, proposed approval of 2019 Fort Oglethorpe millage rate. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is an item to approve the 2019 millage rate for the City of Fort Oglethorpe residents in Catoosa and Walker counties. Our recommendation is to go with the rollback rate this year. So from 2018 to 2019, the property tax digest of Fort Oglethorpe and Catoosa County increased by $10.8 million. This is an increase of 4%. Of this amount, 73% is attributable to reassessment of existing real property, and 27%, roughly $3 million, is attributable to new construction in our city. The total value of the property tax digest of Fort Oglethorpe and Walker County is $6.1 million. From 2018 to 2019, the net digest of Fort Oglethorpe and Walker County increased by 1.4%. So we recommend rolling the millage rate back from 6.632 to 6.443 in 2019. This will result in no increase in property taxes for Fort Oglethorpe residents in Catoosa and Walker counties.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second, sir.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 4, proposed approval of city logo standards. Ms. Simpkins.
Mayor, I'd like to request that we strike this item from the agenda.
I have a motion to strike item number 4 under new business.
Motion, sir.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to strike item number 4 under new business, which is proposed approval of city logo standards. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 4 is stricken from new business. Item number 5 under new business, proposed approval of IGA with Children's Advocacy Center. Mr. Helton.
Mayor and Council, this recommendation to approve this interagency agreement with the Children's Advocacy Center is a yearly agreement that we are partners with. The city has done this for many years. This specific center provides vital services to our community that are important to our children victims. Our detective office works commonly with these folks that do a great service, and it requires council approval for us yearly.
Thank you, Chief Helton. I have a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Sir, do our officers still carry teddy bears in the back and things when we do have dealings with children?
A variety of them carry different things. We have teddy bears that they can access in our office. They can grab some anytime they want it, but they also have other things that they individually pick up and choose to give. So, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We've seen the excellence of our officers tonight. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 6, proposed approval to purchase radios. Chief Helton.
Council, this request stems from our recent purchase that you approved where we could purchase 2 new Dodge Chargers, which are still on order and haven't arrived yet, but these 2 new radios are consistent with the others that we've been purchasing to go inside the cars. And the 2 of them are $6,650.96. It would come from the same SPLOST funds that the vehicles did.
Thank you, Chief Helton. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 7, proposed approval of agreement with Eagle Advantage for laptop software. Chief Helton.
Council, this recommendation to approve is an addition to Eagle's contract. We already have them as our management software company, but this is going to enable them to utilize those computers you approved, I think, maybe even the last meeting, so that they can have that software in those mobile units. It's also going to give a number of them access to GCIC and other things that they're going to need to utilize in those cars. So this price is $12,384. We already have this programmed in our yearly budget, but due to the amount and it being a new or additional contract, we knew it needed to come before this body.
Thank you, Chief Felton. I have a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 8, proposed approval of agreement with Great White Sharks. Ms. Simpkins.
Mayor and City Council, this is a request from the Great White Sharks Aquatics to use the city pool from today, Monday, August 12th, through Friday, August 16th, for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. You all are, I'm sure you're aware that the city pool closed to the public during the week yesterday. So this is an exception. This would allow the Great White Sharks Aquatics to hold their practice, again, for a limit of 6 hours a day. The city's not responsible for providing lifeguards or other staffing. We have an agreement that will hold the Great White Sharks Aquatic liable if there are any issues. There will be no charge to the Great White Sharks Aquatic for the use of the pool this week, as we have to maintain our chemical levels and our utility bills regardless, because we're open on the weekend. So we recommend approval of this agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 9, proposed approval of 2019 health insurance. Ms. Simpkins.
Mayor and City Council, this is more great news. Your Finance Director, Pam Trevelyan, worked with our Russ Blakely and Associates LLC. RBA represents the city of Fort Oglethorpe, as you may recall, with employee benefits marketplace. And we were able to work with RBA this year to result in a 0% increase in 2020 with no changes to our health insurance benefits for employees, Employee Plus One, and family options. Initially, RBA presented a 5% increase with a $50,000 surplus, but again, Pam worked very hard with this company to negotiate a 0% increase. So great news and great work by staff.
Got a total?
We estimate about 1.55 million. It depends on the current staffing and what plan different employees choose. But we estimate about 1.55 million.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda, City Manager's Report. Ms. Simpkins.
I just have a couple of things this evening. One is that, just to remind everyone, we'll have a special called meeting on Monday, August 19th at 6 p.m. And also a reminder that the Labor Day in the Streets event is coming up on September 2nd. And I know Brian has worked hard to communicate with, let's see, the latest count I have is 40 businesses he's communicated with personally to explain the event and the temporary road closure that'll take place during the event. No intersections will be closed, and we look forward to an event that's bigger and better than before.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. Next item on the agenda is City Council comments. Mr. Childs.
I do not have anything tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Childs. Mr. Crawford.
Yes, sir. I know you mentioned with fall and start back to school with that. You know, we got the start of our fall sports in our community especially with our high school. I know the softball team's playing today at Day County, and then the first scrimmage for the high school football team was Friday night against East Ridge, which they won, and which they'll start their season the 23rd, I believe, against Heritage at Tommy Cash Stadium up there. Speaking of them, Coach Campbell, just like when we talked to him, he does a great job with his players and Chris East through the athletic department. But something good-looking bunch of boys up there. I think he's going to have a pretty good team. Me and the mayor were fortunate enough. If you notice the landscaping done out front, he brought the players over and they put mulch in all the flower beds and got them looking good here at City Hall. And that's just many projects that Coach Campbell has done throughout the community to help teach these boys some lessons and stuff like that, and he's done a really good job with them, and they've been working hard, so we'd like to wish them the best, along with our volleyball teams and our softball teams.
If they play as hard as they did working on this mulch out here, they had a couple of them linemen had a bag on each shoulder. I was trying to stay out of their way. Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to all the teachers out there. We dropped Ella off at school for her first day of school today as a first grader. So that was pretty cool. Miss Sprayberry is her teacher at Battlefield Primary, and I think she's going to have a really, really good year. The only thing is, old Jeff Wilson's daughter, Olivia Wilson, and Ella wound up in the same class. So Miss Sprayberry's going to have her hands full with that. But we're excited about it, and really thankful for all the work they put in over there. It's incredible. Very, very thankful.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Ms. James?
I've also had an opportunity to go watch the ladies softball team at Lakeview. They're looking good this year, so everybody come out and see them. And I think there was an officer in Walker County that was shot that is in good shape, but just keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. I know it's one of our neighboring counties, and we're going to be thinking about him as he recovers.
Thank you, Ms. James. Ms. Stinnett?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It's great to be back. And since everyone is speaking about education, this just in from the Georgia Department of Education. So let me share this with you. We can brag definitely about our teachers, and I'm sure Ella's teacher can handle everything that's dished out, and this proves it. Georgia students showed strong gains from the 2019 Georgia Milestones Assessments. Scores increased or held steady on 25 of the 26 assessments in Georgia. This is the strongest overall gains recorded in the last 5 years. Tribute to your teachers. The percentage of students reading on grade level or above increased or held steady in every tested grade, and both English language arts high school courses. Our Governor, Brian Kemp, added to it. He said, a strong K-12 education system is essential to keeping Georgia the best state in the nation to live, work, and raise a family. These strong results show impressive improvements in Georgia's public schools, and I commend the educators and students of our state for their hard work. So be sure you thank teachers. They are doing a great job. Next, sir. I'd like to share with you that the Fort Oglethorpe 5K is coming on Saturday, November the 9th. Now, to go along with Saturday, November 9th is the dedication of Honor Park, a tribute to those who serve. So if you haven't had an opportunity to get over there and see Honor Park, right off of Shelby on Claiborne, take some time, go over and check it out. The 5K will be running through Honor Park, and there is a discount to run for all military, veterans, police, fire, emergency, first responders. And then finally, since 2016, Tree City USA, we have to apply for this every year. And you ask, why is this so important, Paula? With Tree City USA comes all those grants, providing trees, providing assistance with education for stormwater, etc. This comes to the city for free with our application, which is a pretty extensive endeavor. So there you go, Fort Oglethorpe, Tree City USA again, showing what a great place Fort Oglethorpe is. Thank you, gentlemen and lady. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Stinnett. Next item on the agenda is citizens petitions. Mr. Hill. Just step up to the podium, Mr. Hill.
Yes, I live 475 Patterson Avenue, and I've been over here to the police department 3 or 4 times complaining about people driving up and down Patterson Avenue at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and nobody will do anything. And I finally got one of the officers to put up those signs showing the speed limit, and he kept them out there a couple of weeks, but didn't really change things. And just a few days ago, I was trying to get out of my driveway, which is hard, from 5 to 7, because that's when everybody comes through there. And finally got a chance to get out, and I tried to drive the speed limit, which is 30 miles an hour. Well, a guy came up behind me and started blowing in his horn, and I could see him jumping up and down in his car. He was having road rage. And he finally passed me before you turn into the Walmart parking lot there as you go down the hill. And he cut right back in front of me, and we almost had a collision. And I don't know what to do about these people, and I can't get any police help. They won't come out there and write any tickets, so nobody's slowing down. And that's why I came over here today. I don't know what to do. I've gone to the police. They say they're short of help, undermanned, because they don't have enough policemen. And they won't send anybody out there to slow these people down. And somebody's going to get killed eventually. That's one item. And the next item is I've been trying to get somebody out there. You can't go outside of my house without getting bit by at least 5 or 6 mosquitoes. And I've asked the city manager to send somebody out there, and I still haven't seen anybody out there. And they're getting worse. It's getting to where I can't even go out to get in my car without getting bit 5 or 6 times. So that's a problem. And I don't know how it is with all my neighbors and people, but it's bad for me because I live right there kind of in the swamp on Patterson Avenue, where years ago the city dug I think it may have been when it was in the county, they dug a ditch behind my house, and now the water just lays in that ditch, and I'm sure it breeds mosquitoes. And the city manager's come out there and looked at it, and she says that they're going to do something about it. But
Yes, sir. And I'm happy to respond whenever you all would like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been out a couple of times.
I know you've been out.
And met with Gwen at 455 Patterson?
475.
475, thank you. And we looked at, there are some drainage ditches out in front that we actually, in front of your homes, that were holding standing water. That was one of the first concerns.
Oh, yeah.
And we borrowed the Catoosa County's Gradall to dig those ditches out and rejet them so that the water would flow over the front, through the front of the property. We're still working on the easement information that we would need in order to do anything in the back, because currently the city does not have a right to be on the back of your property to maintain those ditches. On the front of your property, those ditches are in the right of way, so we can go in and jet out those pipes all day long, and we haven't had a big rain since that happened.
No, we haven't.
So I'm interested to see, and I've got the boots in my car, I'm ready to go take a look at what happens next time it rains.
I'll tell you where the water runs. It runs under my house.
And you are at the
I've
low
got a lake
point.
under my house.
Yes, sir, you are at the low point. Absolutely, you're getting a lot of water.
It runs off the hill and it runs out front in the ditches.
Mm-hmm.
And when it rains real hard, it just overflows right into my yard and under my house.
So what we'd like to do is come take a look the next time we have a big rain. And like I said, we're ready to go. Take a look at where the water's going and see if there's anything else we can do. Also, Jeff Long mentioned that there was a small leak on Cynthia Drive that was causing standing water, and this leak has been fixed. So again, it's gonna be kind of a process of observing some of the changes some improvements that we've made, and kind of, doing what we can to help you guys. With the mosquito issue, we actually, from May through October, we spray for mosquitoes, and in your neighborhood, we're there on Fridays around 6:15 a.m. And it should be every Friday. So,
I've never seen them out there, I don't know. Of course, I'm not up awake at 6:15.
yeah.
Most days.
He's usually early.
That's early.
He's usually there before 6.
He's been out
Well,
spraying every week.
They have to get out there before this, really before the sun sets in. So that may be why you haven't seen them, but we do spray every single week, every Friday at 6:15 a.m.
It's not helping a whole lot.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. We do not have anything for executive session tonight. Final item on the agenda is adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.